So we have the Chinese reserve, which is made up by 4 Stuarts and 1 infantry platoon. They've also got 3 heavy machine gun pillboxes and some booby traps and P-40s. These will be used as sporadic air support, but they're heavily outnumbered by the Japanese forces. The Japanese force consists of 4 rifle platoons. These are fearless veterans, but this time no banners. In addition, they've got a mixed weapons platoon. They've got 2 of the close support battalion guns, 2 of the regimental guns, 3 light recce vehicles equipped with machine guns, and in reserve 5 medium tanks and 2 heavy self-propelled guns. In addition, they've got quite a lot of air support. They've got 3 dive bombers, and they're escorted by 2 Zeros. So the Chinese forces starting off here with the headquarters, supported by some US advisors. We then see the dug-in mortar platoon. It should have good field of fire forward, covering up to the bridge, and slightly just in front of them we've got a dug-in anti-tank platoon, which is covering the road and the open ground out towards the logging facility. These are going to be very difficult for the Japanese, and that's supported forward, as I said, by the engineer platoon equipped with flamethrowers and machine guns. They're holding, if you like, the centre backed up onto the river. This is a good defensive position for the Chinese forward. On the right flank, we've got some elements forward covering onto the railway with secondary positions which are behind some barbed wire defensive positions, and there's a small stream in the middle there as well. Over on the left flank, again some American support providing anti-air cover for the 75 mils, which have only got a limited range and probably only going to cover this flank of the combat zone. So again, challenging over there for the Chinese. This is the logistics supply position on the extreme left flank, and again with some US support. This is the critical road between Burma and China. Out to the front, we've got an MG platoon. It's supporting the infantry platoon, and in front of that we have a light recce screen of the German armoured cars. This is probably the Chinese most vulnerable flank. They've got very little in the way of direct anti-tank capability, so they're going to be relying heavily on these 75 mils and potentially what the 20 mils from the armoured cars can do. But this could be a very, very challenging aspect of the battle should the Japanese armour arrive on this flank. So it's all to play for as we start round 1. So the Japanese initial deployment, they've deployed the heavy 75mm artillery regiment. It's in the centre, just to the left flank of the river. This is going to give them good fields of fire on both the left and right flank. A really good move here. Meanwhile, on the right hard flank, they've gone for the mortar platoon. This is backed up on the hard right flank by the cliffs, and they're going to really only be able to support the 2 infantry platoons pushing up, looking to take the main supply depot. Quite vulnerable for the Chinese. Chinese win the initiative, and here on the left flank you see them very aggressive. The 3 tankettes pushing forward, double move, taking the chance not to get hit. They're supported in the rear by one of their infantry platoons and the direct battalion 70mm guns. Further over on the hard right flank, we see them crossing the river, heading towards the first village. This is a difficult obstacle, so this is slowing them down immediately as they get off the start line. Quite vulnerable at the minute, but fortunately the heavy terrain means that the Chinese recce can't see them. Further over on the right hard flank, we have the mixed platoon of the anti-tank rifles, supported by the 2 75mm light guns, and a pair of heavy machine guns. Let's see what the Chinese have in reply to this. Round 1 for the Chinese shows a bit of tactical error, lack of experience by the recce commander. They're well forward. 2 of the vehicles identify the support guns, the 75 mils. Unfortunately, they're out of range, failed to move, and this has overexposed them. Here we have a few periscope shots just to show the challenge with line of sight when you've got a heavy amount of jungle terrain. Currently the Japanese recce unable to see very much. However, on the other flank they have picked up the Chinese recce poor positioning. So round 2 ends with the Chinese engineers taking some indirect fire. 2 hits but 2 saves with the dug-in position, but they're now ranged in on. On the right flank, the Japanese anti-tank, it hits and bails the armoured car. So 2 rounds down, not that eventful, but still early days. So this is the end of part 1. Thank you for listening in, and see you again next week.